Hi, this is Ashley from Physio for Moms. This is my very first vlog, and I just wanted to talk about the pelvic floor in terms of what the muscles are, what its functions are, and why it's important for pregnant and postpartum women, and really most of us. So, the job of the pelvic floor is one, sphincteric. So that means its job is to close off the holes. So your vaginal opening, the urethral opening where your urine comes out, and then the rectal opening at the anus as well. So if that's not working, then that can be one of the reasons why you might have more leakage with stress incontinence or urge incontinence, where you're actually leaking urine or fecal matter. That's one piece of it. The second job, some of us might think one of the more important jobs, is sexual function. The pelvic floor muscles are to allow blood flow to come towards our sexual organs, particularly the clitoris, and allow for some engorgement as well as orgasm. So during an orgasm, we have a big pelvic floor contraction, and that's one of the things that leads to pleasure. One of the third functions of the pelvic floor muscles are stability. So a lot of the times when you've had low back, hip, SI joint pain, we've looked a lot at some of the external muscles, so your glutes, you might hear about the piriformis, that one gets blamed a lot, your core stability, but if you're not addressing those internal muscles, then a lot of the time we're missing a piece of the puzzle. And particularly during pregnancy and postpartum phases of life, those parts of our body have gone through a huge amount of change, and they also did a lot of work. Like, talk about pushing out a baby, that's a big amount of work for a lot of those muscles, and they're not very big. So that can lead to a lot of the issues later on. So for stability purposes and getting back to running or whatever your goals are, stability of the pelvic floor muscles is really important. And the last function of the pelvic floor is to help with venous and lymphatic supply, so pumping those the blood flow back up towards the heart and working to get that blood oxygenated again, as well as working to push some of the lymph around the body. Okay, so those are the four functions of the pelvic floor. So sphincter, sexual, stability, and the venous flow. Okay, so what are the pelvic floor muscles? So when you talk about doing a Keigel, that is using the pelvic floor muscles, and that's the contraction of the pelvic floor. But before that, let's talk about where they are. So we'll look at this very fancy pelvic floor model that I have. This was designed by a lovely, fantastic pelvic floor physio named MJ Forget. She is in North Bay, Ontario, so thank you for this fantastic model. So if we look at this from the outside, it's like a bit of a bowl. So we're going to imagine that if you were on your back with your knees up, this is the external portion of the vagina and then the anus. So there are muscles that live here, and so commonly when I check them in my patients, they're like, there's muscles there? I had no idea. Now these muscles are actually most responsible for sexual function. So really important to have good strength in that, and that can actually help improve some of the orgasm. So good ones. Now these muscles, there's three: Bulbocavernosus, that lies right around the labia, Ischiocavernosus, that comes right from the pubic bone out towards your sit bone, and then the transverse perineal muscle, which runs across the bottom from one sit bone to the other. So primary function is sexual. Now, if we look on the inside of the pelvis, so if we flip this around, so this is like if you're looking skyline view down, here is the pubic bone and the clitoris, and then the vaginal opening and the rectal opening. So it's not important to know all of the muscles' names when you're just thinking about what they do, but there's kind of two big functions. One of the big ones is to get the Keigel. So if you look at these muscles that form slings around the opening, their primary job is often the sphincter, so to close the opening so that we're not leaking urine or fecal matter. So if there is disruption in those muscles, that can be one of the reasons. Maybe they're not contracting well, maybe they're actually too tight, very common, and that might be leading to some of the dysfunction. And then if we look outside of that, there's these bigger muscles that again help to support the stability and as well as give you more of that sphincter control and also support some of the organs from the inside. So we look at these big muscles. Here's piriformis. So you can actually touch that from the inside, usually rectally, to palpate that as well as externally. And then one of the other ones that's very interesting is this muscle up here called your obturator internus. Obturator internus is actually a hip muscle. So these muscles are all responsible for the Keigel. So what a Keigel is really a squeezing of these muscles to close the holes, and then they actually will lift up towards the head, lifter of the anus. That's their primary role. So that will help to support all of the organs underneath and provide you with more stability. But obturator internus is a bit different. Obturator internus is responsible for hip external rotation. And a lot of the time when you've had some more outside hip pain, like kind of towards the side of your glute, that can often be referred from that obturator internus. And that muscle can commonly be tight and a bit dysfunctional. If that's the case, this muscle belly only lives in the pelvis. Once it exits the pelvis, it actually turns into more of a tendinous structure. So we're not able to get at it externally like we would some of the bigger glute muscles or even piriformis as much as we are once we're in vaginally or rectally. So again, just to review, these are all the big muscles. I can put a list of the name below, but their jobs are to close the holes and then lift. So when we're talking about a Keigel, you're using those muscles. And then the other thing is that those muscles need to be able to turn off and turn on. And for a lot of women, we're really good at turning them on or at holding tension, but we're not as good at relaxing. And I'll talk more about that later. There's different relationships between if they're tight or weak and how to strengthen them, and then what to do if they are too tight. So if you want to keep tuning in, I'm going to post more vlogs that just have a lot more educational information. And if you're looking for a pelvic floor physio in your area, you can always check out pelvichealthsolutions.ca. Has a list of great pelvic floor physios in Canada. And if you have any other questions, you can email me directly at ashley@physioformoms.com. And then if you're looking for some strengthening programs, postpartum or while you're pregnant, then check out some of my exercise programs that I've designed on physioformoms.com. Have a good day.